Ryan, I want to welcome you to Washington Times Higher Ground. And I want to get right into your story because you have an interesting background. You're a pastor, you're also a businessman, and you're running for president. What in the world made you, and I mean this in a respectful way, want to throw your hat in the ring for president? That it is the hardest job in the world by far.
Well, great to meet you, Billy. So honored to be with you today. As I answer this question, which oddly enough comes up very frequently, I just tell people the story. I'm a businessman. I run my life in business. We have a merger and acquisition company. It's grown to be a pretty large investment banking firm. We have about 350 employees across the nation, 16 offices. I'm also a pastor. My wife and I have been in ministry. We have been married for 24 years and been in ministry really throughout the whole time, usually young adult ministry. And then we started a church 10 years ago. So it started with a small group. Now it's grown to a growing family. And I'm just minding my business, doing these things, raising kids. And God began giving me dreams about running for president of the United States. So as I began to get them, 7-8 years ago is when they started coming. Just like if you got them today, anybody got them today, I shelved it. I said, God, is that symbolic? Is that literal? What are you trying to say? And then they would just keep coming year after year. And if you would have asked me 3 years ago, Ryan, would you ever run for president of the United States? Billy, I would have told you absolutely yes. I was so often, but I would not have known when. But about 2 years ago, God began making it abundantly clear that now's the time, and he began giving me messages for our country. So I'm here today sharing the message with my background in business, because a big part of the message is that we're in an economic crisis, and we have some things that we've ignored as a country that God wants us to pay attention to for the future. Secondly is we're in a cultural crisis. And so likely the background I have, maybe God just wants to speak into that. So I'm here because he has spoken to me. I have a burden in my heart to share a message that I'm sharing, and that's why I'm here.
How do people react? I'm a Christian. I'm a believer. I'm not shocked to hear that. But for people who maybe are not used to hearing that sort of story of how you felt that call, what are the reactions that you get from people?
Well, two. One, they're very interested. Many people want to know, okay, what's happening? What is God saying? Does God still have interest in our country today? Is he speaking about the affairs of man today? I think you and I both know he does have interest. He is speaking into the affairs of man and to our great country. But also many people are confused by it. They don't really believe in God. So right away, the thought is, well, I think there should be a separation of church and state, Ryan. I don't think you should even mention that. Well, then it gets into a little civics course of, well, the Constitution never addresses separation of church and state. In fact, it addresses the opposite, that we have a right for a religion and to express that even. And so the expression of that just means this, though. I tell people, if we as Christians have put off you as a non-Christian in this journey of what it means to be involved in civil government, it's because we haven't presented the message correctly. And the message God gave us was this: love your neighbor. And so everything that we're doing, if we've misrepresented that, that's on us. And so the policies we have, the messages that have come to be have really been about our culture and about how we can help each other. And usually when I say that, it doesn't matter whether they're atheist or agnostic or any other faith. Usually the swords drop and they go, okay, I think regardless of our faith, we can all recognize that some poor people need help. We need to address the needs of those that are in need today. And that's when we start working on what does this mean in our everyday lives. And usually it gets better right after that.
Well, yeah, you raise a lot of interesting points there about separation of church and state and this idea that it's a very strange idea that, you can elect somebody based on every other factor in their life, but we don't want to hear about their faith. We don't want to hear about what they believe, when the reality is everybody has a worldview, whether you're an atheist, an agnostic, a Christian, a Muslim, whatever you are, you have a worldview. And so it's very interesting to sort of have that debate and then look at the reality of the types of people we do choose and the reasons we choose them, and the fact that you are, again, in business and you're a pastor. Now, people will say, and you've seen this in the coverage, oh, well, he's a long shot, right? You'll hear that word get thrown out there. When you hear that, what is it like to hear that? And how do you respond to that sort of, it's not even a critique. I think it's a descriptor based on the current field.
Well, of course I'm a long shot. I think it's evident of that. And I like that. In fact, as we look at anything that's happened in history, anybody that's really done anything significant has come out of nowhere. It doesn't matter whether it was a president called Donald Trump or whether it was great leaders that have broke barriers before that we've never heard of until they broke a barrier. Then all of a sudden we know who they are. People like Roger Bannister didn't know who he was until he did something unique, or Rosa Parks until they stood their ground. I think this is the kind of thing that we're talking about. America's in trouble. I have a very clear message of what we're supposed to do. I'm asking America just to listen to it. And what's happening is that when I've been to 50 counties already in Iowa. And so Iowa's amazing because it's a caucus state. And what that means is people love to dialogue. So you can give a speech for 15 minutes, do Q&A for 30 minutes, and then still talk for another 30, 40 minutes because they just love engaging you. And as I'm talking about the issues that we're speaking of, they're listening. And they're listening because they know at their heart level, we've missed some things financially. The Republican Party's lost our history, lost who we are, what we've really stood for, and how do we get this back? And what's our country doing? They recognize that America has lost, I think, its compass, its soul to a certain extent. What does this mean to be American? And when we are diving in, navigating, speaking about the issues, people are responding, and that's what's catching some attraction.
Yeah, and you've talked about a number of issues here broadly. I think everybody knows, and it's funny, you look at sort of the Gallup polling and other polls that are taken, and the majority of the country feels that we're on the wrong track. There may be different reasons for why people feel that way, but it's very evident that we have lost our way and that the populace feels we've lost our way. When you look at America and you look at your candidacy, what do you think are maybe two of the biggest issues? And I know there are many of them that right now specifically are facing this country.
Well, the two biggest ones that we're facing are really that we need an economic reformation in our country, revival of its sorts economically. And what does that mean to the future generation? And then culturally. Right now, we've never been more divided in my lifetime. I'm 55 years old than we are right now. We are at a place where each party is at a unique position to where their entire goal is to see the opposing party fail at any level. And so we already know how people are going to vote on any legislative item that comes to pass. You don't even have to take a vote. I could tell you already, even so far as the Supreme Court, except with the exception of a few, we almost know how they're going to vote before it even goes up to the court. So we're in this place where things have gotten out of hand, so culturally and economically. And how do we fix that? And so I'm diving right into these right away. I could share with you my thoughts on economic platform, but really the key part about our platform economically, we have to understand that there are problems that we're going to face in the future. They're going to be way different than we're facing today. Our country has absolutely no margin in it. And the message I'm having for our country is this, that if you could go back in time and look at the Great Depression, what triggered it? What was there beforehand? What were the taxes like? What was the indications of the economy? Go back to the Great Recession of 2007 and 8, when banks were shut down for 6 months. We had just started the mergers and acquisition business we have today by a couple of years. We saw everything stop. We saw a housing crisis take people's wealth away by 50 and 60%, overnight almost. What led up to that? I'm telling America there's something coming. I don't know exactly what it is, but I definitely know this. We're not prepared for any sort of disruption. We have a $1.5 trillion to $2 trillion deficit every year. This is what causes inflation, when we have to print money to solve our problems and to pay our bills. And this is the monetary problem we have today. Too much money causes too much inflation. And then we see the Fed even come out today, try and constrict the economy. So what we can see is a slow economy with hyperinflation. That's our future unless we change this.
It's very evident as a businessman, running a company, the skills that you have that you could bring into the presidency. When it comes to being a pastor, though, what has that job given you that would equip you in the presidency? Because I think that's an arena. We don't often see a lot of people who are pastors who are trying to become president. And so we've had some over the years, but what do you think has uniquely, because of that position, maybe equipped you for it?
Well, being a pastor has been a tremendous blessing in my life personally, because I'm able to, stay as close as I can to God for my family and share just different truths that God has given us over the years. But the bigger thing that God has been speaking to me about is this culture aspect. And what does this mean to our country today? I pastor a multicultural church. And so in our church, there's many different backgrounds, different ages, as well as many different races. I'm in a very diverse part of Dallas as well. So we reflect our community. It's an amazing area in the northeast side of Dallas. And so I'm glad of that. But it's also interesting to note that not everybody in my church is Republican. In fact, I don't know, I'm guessing 30, 40%, maybe more Democrat. And this is what I've learned from my friends that are multicultural Christians, and they have different viewpoints on what it means to vote politically, what's important to them. And this is what I'm telling everybody out there in Iowa that I know of. The friends that I have that are Democrats and that are Christians, most of them are not Democrats because they believe in this far left, far woke agenda, or because they believe in that every woman should have choice. Most of them think that the Democratic Party is addressing some of the needs of the poor, some of the needs of the immigrant in a more clear and direct way. And I would say this, personal way than the Republican Party is. Republicans as a whole, I think, care about these issues a lot, but we as a party are very poor messengers. And so as I'm telling everybody is we actually have a lot more in common than what we think. We're actually one family. The message God gave me was this: listen, tell everybody we all have one Father. We're really all one family. We're really all Americans. We have to recognize that a lot of people on the far left, they want to see a good country as well. They're not trying to kill our country. They have a different vision about it. What we have to do is learn to not demonize everybody. I think stand up for truth, but then win people over. We're never going to win people over to our side if we keep demonizing them, villainizing them at every moment. So this division rhetoric is not the way we need to lead. I read the other day where 49% of America identifies as independent, meaning they're not identifying as Republican or Democrat. So we've got a huge majority to win. Share with them truth, share with them our convictions. And there's going to be a lot of people when they see that we have a wise plan to secure our border and a plan for immigrants. We have a wise plan for urban American renewal, how we're going to treat the poor as a Republican Party. What's our message? I have a message for that. What's the Republican plan for healthcare? So we have some issues that we're talking about, but the bigger pieces are culturally, we have to recognize we're all the same family.
I think that's a really good point. And I've always argued as an independent, actually, that, when I look at the Republicans, they're really good at logic, right? And throwing out logical arguments and facts and focusing on that. The Democrats, and I'm stereotyping here, but are really good at emotion. And they've perfected emotion. And both of those things can be very successful in moving people. I think emotion sometimes is a little bit more of a pull when you have media and Hollywood and everybody's sort of pulling for you on that. But you have to have those things come together, I think. And so Republicans, if they could message a little better, I think would do a much better job at getting people to be convinced of their arguments. And what you're speaking about here, these are big issues. Healthcare is a big issue. Immigration is a big issue. And I've seen some of your positioning on immigration. Look, why can't there be a world, and I'd love for you to respond to this, where you have a wall, and I'm saying hypothetically here, where you intensify security, where you ensure that terrorists and others can't come over the border, but where you have a new Ellis Island that is operating in a way that allows people in? I'm not trying to oversimplify, but why can't those two things come together?
They absolutely can come together. And so that's what I'm telling America. Republicans want a secure border. Democrats want citizenship for everyone, just about. So there is a balance to that. Certainly the plan that I'm supporting right now offers wisdom and truth and strength, because we can't just secure the border in Texas. And it's not just for illegal immigration. That's part of it. But we've got a drug called fentanyl coming in. And this is why I'm telling people this is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an American issue. This drug fentanyl is not getting near enough attention by the media, not near enough attention by the president of the United States, because this reason, it does not align with their philosophy on securing the border. Because if you secure the border, you're not allowing this drug in. But if you secure the border, then you're not allowing illegal immigrants in. But fentanyl is killing 200 to 300 young people a day. It's like a jumbo jet falling to the ground out of the sky every day, and us just looking at it like, wow, there it happens again. Right. When are we going to do something about it? When are Republicans going to actually come together? And this is what I'm telling the Republican Party. It's time for us to lead in immigration and border security. We can't just shout border security and say we're never going to have a plan for the immigrant. The reason is that it takes money. Congress has legislative power. They have the power of the purse, and it's going to take money to secure it from the Pacific Coast, Gavin Newsom's territory, which if we don't get this done right, he'll just put a big welcome sign in his area. So we've got to secure it from coast to coast, and then we've got to do it with integrity, people, technology. And this is an American issue. It's a human rights issue. We have human trafficking coming in. There's more people, more children coming across our border with not parents there, being smuggled in by coyotes, human traffickers, and we've got to stop this. And this is a human rights issue. We have to stop it immediately. But I think it's a God issue. He cares about people. We have people that are coming across illegally. Many of those need to go back. The act I'm supporting is called the Dignity Act. In fact, I had a chance to go in D.C. Recently and work with the Congresswoman, just speak with her about that. And she's got a plan, Maria Salazar, on that she's proposed, and it's amazing because it actually puts a fine together. You know, if you commit a crime in America, you pay a fine or you go to jail. This has a significant fine that can lead up to $10,000 for coming across illegally, but it's paid out of their paycheck over time, which helps put money to secure the border as well. So it's a well thought out plan. The best thing about it, it's Republican led. It's strong. It takes leadership to do this. And I'm asking America and Republicans to let's don't give the immigration conversation to Democrats. Let's lead on it. Let's be the leaders of every area of society, and we can do this.
Well, I appreciate you taking us through the issues, talking about your story. You are definitely a very unique candidate, and I'm very intrigued to see where things go from here. Appreciate your time today.
Well, it's been great to be with you. If I can add, as we get on this journey, the next thing for us is to get on the debate stage in August, and we need 40,000 unique donors to be able to do that. So if your listeners here, if you like this message far, if you want to learn more, please go to Binkley2024.com. Check out our platform. There's a unique platform from healthcare, which is eating away our economy, that we have laid out there that we really think that we can help transform our country as well economically. And give a small donation. That will help us get to the debate stage, and I really appreciate it.
Appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Great to be with you.